Welcome to Stan Lee Presents. This week we're going on a trip to Wyoming. Why Wyoming, you may ask? That's where the Stan Lee papers can be found, at the American Heritage Center at the University of Wyoming in Laramie, which comprises of almost 200 boxes full of rarely seen physical and audiovisual material that Stan donated over several decades. Yes, we did say almost 200. Not only that, but through late October 2024, the American Heritage Center is presenting a Stan Lee exhibit featuring items from Stan's archive, most of which have never been publicly displayed. We're talking Spider-Man movie ideas from the 1980s, Stan's notes, fan letters, and much, much more. What makes this exhibit special, aside from the super unique pieces that very few people have ever seen, is that it was curated by 3 students and Stan fans, Hazel Homer Wambeam, Liam Leslie, and Rhiannon McLean. Earlier this year, Stan Lee Presents got to take a peek into Stan's vast collection at the American Heritage Center and speak to a few of the people involved with the new exhibit, Stan Lee Beyond the Book. Want to see some of the items the curators had to play with? We thought so. Let's go.
The American Heritage Center is an archive located here at the University of Wyoming. As an archive, it's a national archive. It's one of the 10 largest non-governmental archives in the nation, and while we're mostly known for the American West, we have large entertainment collections in Hollywood and early film and early TV, a lot of comic related and science fiction collections. The Stan Lee collection is one of our Hollywood collections, but what's interesting about it is that it's become perhaps the most requested collection that we have. It's fairly large, and we have all sorts of materials in it. Stan donated to the American Heritage Center for 30 years, giving us 1 or 2 shipments every year. It's one of the go-to collections for students. It gets a lot of attention, and we're really pleased with that.
So back in 2015, I did a National History Day project. It was a 10-minute documentary film for the NHD National History Day program, and I chose my topic to be Stan Lee, the creator of Marvel Comics. And part of why I chose that topic was because the American Heritage Center had this incredible 200 plus box collection. I really was not a huge Marvel fan before that. I had seen some of the movies, but I never read any comics. And I dove into this collection and started kind of immersing myself in this world and in his life, and slowly became a huge, not just Marvel fan, but Stan Lee fan and Marvel history fan. And I spent months communicating with his people and through the American Heritage Center, and was able to, at the age of 13, secure an interview with him. So I received a phone number and I called him on the phone, and I spoke with him for 10 minutes. Fast forward to spring of 2023, and I received an email from Paul Fletcher, the director of the American Heritage Center. He wanted some advice on the collection since I was kind of the last person to really research it in depth. And he had this idea to create an exhibition highlighting the Stan Lee papers. And it became very clear after speaking with him that not only did he want my advice on the exhibit, he actually wanted me to head the project. And so I agreed to this huge undertaking, and we found 2 other student interns, Rhiannon McLean and Liam Leslie, and we started this massive undertaking, and I just kind of dove back into the research that I did almost 10 years ago.
When I was growing up, I was really into comic books. It was a whole thing for me and my dad. My mom really loved Stan Lee. He had a TV show called Who Wants to Be a Superhero that she thought was just the funniest thing in the world. So I already had a huge background in comic collecting, as well as Stan Lee as a character, as a person. Then once Stan passed away, those papers became more and more popular, more and more requested. And he donated for so long that I don't know that many people have gone through the entire thing and really dug in, at least doing cursory glances on every piece of material that had been donated. So that kind of became our undertaking, was we're gonna build an exhibit out of this, but we also wanna know this collection back and forth. And I think we've done that pretty successfully.
we spent hours and hours and hours a day scouring this collection, digging through boxes. At this point, we pretty much have covered every single box, hopefully, fingers crossed, that we have in the collection. And that was all over the summer.
Of course, being a Stan Lee fan, and of course having like the emotional connection with my family and all of that, I was still kind of in that pinch me phase of, oh my gosh, I'm, gonna be a Stan Lee historian for a year. That's just a dream come true. So when you're going through those first few boxes, every single paper that has his signature on it may as well be gold. So then the first few weeks we kind of got over that pinch me phase. And I would say after about a month and a half, we started to find kind of through lines in the material of what he was donating. And so when we found those through lines, we were able to kind of narrow it down to 8 or 9 sections that have some type of cohesive theme.
During the fall, we kind of started developing the actual plan for the exhibit, starting this curation process, doing some of the writing of the interpretive material. But yeah, the interns have really been tasked with the research, the curation, the writing, some of the marketing, some collaboration with different organizations. It's been quite a large task.
This is an exhibit about Stan Lee himself and the things he did both in his career and to a certain extent as a person. It's not an exhibit about comic books, it's not an exhibit about movies, it's not an exhibit about the characters. Although you can't talk about Stan without talking about Spider-Man. It's an exhibit about art, literature, and Stan the man.
I think what changed most about my perception of Stan is that he was just a real person. I think it's very easy for Marvel fans to put him on a pedestal. At some level he became a Marvel superhero himself, which I don't think is wrong in any way. I think he deserved kind of that level of status with all the work that he did in his life. Looking through the collection, and this is what I hope our patrons walk away with when coming to visit the exhibit, looking through the collection, you begin to realize that he truly was just a real person. He had a family, he had flaws, he had friends, he had arguments with friends, he made mistakes. And I think the fact that he included those mistakes and those flaws and those relationships in the collection when he donated it makes it a very real and raw piece of history. The fact that he kept all of the fan mail. He really wanted that reminder that he was making an impact on people's lives. And I think a lot of other people might have just thrown that kind of thing away, but he sent it to the University of Wyoming.
But to really get to know him as a creative, as an artist who really loved what he did, that was just really beautiful and kind of emotional in a lot of ways. Because I think people really do underscore the legitimacy of comics as an art form and of the kind of writing that he did. And some of the personal material in there reveals some of that he felt illegitimate sometimes in other academic spaces and other journalistic spaces for being, not a real writer. But seeing that process, that's as real as anything else that we study. And so that was just really beautiful.
Once again, that was Stan Lee Presents A Trip to Wyoming. We hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever we upload next. Excelsior!